Now on to the latest in Australia's
Delta farce.
Death is horrible, but we also need to put things into perspective because at the moment there are 8 million citizens who don't have a choice in how they spend their free time.
And first, let's go to South Australia and their latest COVID isolation hack.
9 News can reveal COVID-19 quarantine signs must now be placed on the front doors of homes in South Australia where returned travellers are isolating for 2 weeks.
Yes, and what could go wrong? I'm sure local neighbourhood kids in Adelaide definitely won't be egging those houses or leaving flaming bags on their front doorsteps, knowing full well the people inside can't chase them down afterwards. Good job.
Judas Priest Barber is one of those flaming bags again.
Also in New South Wales this week.
Today, vaccinations were made mandatory for all police.
Yes, finally you can feel safe from COVID while you're being strip searched at a music festival or capsicum sprayed in the face at a protest this summer. Thanks, team. Of course, the big COVID news in New South Wales this week is
Sydney-siders could soon be sipping a schooner in the pub or getting a haircut, with the Premier today revealing her roadmap to freedom.
Yes, that's right. Pub day is coming, and it could be before kids go back to school because, you know, priorities. Sandra Sully at 10 News couldn't help but make the good news sound depressing, though.
Tonight, we know what the road to freedom looks like. It will be a hard road with more lives lost and pain to come.
Yes, but pub, Sandra Sully. Pub. Pub. Haircuts. Pub. And look, I'm sorry. What she said sounded awfully like the tagline to, like, an apocalyptic Mad Max movie. The road to freedom will be a hard road with more lives lost and pain to come. Fury Road 2, Road Harder. Scott Morrison reminded us of some of the things we have to look forward to.
Australia can be connected again and connected with the world. People can attend weddings. People can go and have household gatherings and birthday parties. And sadly, they'll have funerals.
Yay, funerals! No, actually, it turns out he might not be wrong about that.
The Premier determined to push ahead and relax restrictions mid-October, despite official predictions will hit the worst caseload in history at exactly the same time.
Coincidentally, the worst time in hospitalisation is likely to be the time that we open up, but that shouldn't stop us.
Yes, because nothing makes you want to go to the pub more than overflowing ICUs. Well, at least our hospital and ambulance workers will be able to have a schooner on the way home after an 18-hour shift at the Hellface Apocalypse. That's freedom, baby. New South Wales style. Yes, Gladys is saying this pub and funeral fun day will come for vaccinated people once the state reaches 70% double dose vaccination around mid-October.
We will get to 70% double dose when people get their second dose, when people come forward to get vaccinated, and these freedoms will come into place the Monday after that occurs.
But the media reports that reopening at 70% wasn't the health advice the Premier was given.
The Australian newspaper is suggesting this morning that Gladys Berejiklian may have ignored health advice that suggested we should be reopening at the 80 to 85% vaccination point. This will be the 70% instead.
Wow. New South Wales prioritising the economy and reopening earlier than the health advice recommends. How? Completely expected and predictable. Well, here's hoping it doesn't lead to too many extra deaths, hospitalisations and lockdowns because the New South Wales government couldn't be bothered waiting an extra couple of weeks to reopen all the Bunnings. Here's hoping. At the 11 a.m. press conference, the New South Wales Chief Health Officer Kerry Chant remained very coy on what she actually recommended to the government.
Is it true that you did advise or push to Cabinet that you prefer an 85% rather than 70% as the threshold?
Look, let me just reframe. I'm really very excited by the way that the community is embracing immunisation.
Well, that sounds like a definite yes to me. And what a complete misdirect with that answer. I mean, geez, imagine if you tried an answer like that in high school. The principal was like, Dylan, was that you graffitiing the boys' toilets and smoking? And you answered, look, let me just reframe. I'm really very excited by the way the school community is embracing the new curriculum. You'd be immediately expelled. Chant did elaborate a little and say the reopening was contingent on case numbers continuing to come down.
Dr. Chant, you're comfortable with the pubs and gyms opening at a 70% mark? That you're comfortable with that?
Look, as I said, I think the roadmap gives certainty to businesses about what it looks like. I think the Premier's been very clear that this is all contingent on us getting case numbers down.
Yes, the Premier has been very clear about the case numbers going down. Sorry, what's that, Premier?
So we're not suggesting case numbers are going to go down at all during this period. When you reopen, you expect an increase in case numbers.
Oh, well, good to see everyone's on the same page as usual. Also contradicting himself is Deputy Premier and Minister for Regional New South Wales, John Barilaro.
I know the people of Orange, for instance, the last couple of days have had walk-in clinics. They've come forward and they've been vaccinated. Yesterday, the walk-in clinic was overwhelmed. We had to actually start turning people away, and that's great news.
Yay, New South Wales, where John Barilaro says not getting a vaccine today is great news. Also check out John Barilaro's blame shifting here when he's asked about low vaccination rates in remote and rural Indigenous communities in Western New South Wales, which are currently facing a massive outbreak.
Has Western New South Wales not had the attention it should have had?
Well, it's not just Western New South Wales. I'd argue it's about our vulnerable communities, and our Indigenous communities are part of that vulnerable group. We know that the federal government's vaccination program at the start of the year identified the Indigenous communities part of the 1A rollout, and it hadn't occurred, and that's something that they lost attention of. And we know earlier in the year the rollout wasn't anywhere where it needed to be. We're in there now. Should they have been vaccinated earlier? Yes, it was all part of the federal government's rollout of the vaccination program at the start of the year. It didn't occur, and now we're having to really go in hard.
Okay, so just to recap, Barilaro is saying it's the Fed's fault. They didn't do the thing that we're doing now, which it actually turns out was our job all along, but we forgot about doing. What Barilaro is actually saying there is it's the federal government's fault that they prioritised a group that he just doesn't care about. And as the Premier herself last week said...
But we've also learned a lot, and I think the learnings from New South Wales can be applied to other states when they go through what all states will have to go through.
And the most important learning is don't copy what New South Wales did.